So fun fact about Meghan, she is the most incredible pacer of all time. And she is my running god.
Yes.
Truly. Like the best, right?
Yes, the best running god.
What I have to say is you must have a very small running community.
We do. We do. And
You are our highest standard, yeah.
That means I need to introduce to you like
Other girls.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we'll chat later. Roll the
Chat
intro.
later, but thank you so much. That honestly made my day.
That's so funny.
Well, welcome back to Poddy Talk,
The podcast where we shit talk ourselves.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Tor.
And today we have Meghan Yuri Young here.
Woo woo!
Yes,
Meghan
we're so
is
excited.
such a multi-hyphenate. She has done so many things in her career. Writer, producer, like it goes on and on. Sad Collective founder. Like you have so many things that you've done. We can't wait to hear all about, you know, your path, how you've gotten to where you are, and kind of the steps you've taken to get there as this like freelance creative.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll start at the very beginning. How did you kind of fall into the creative industries? What was that path like at the very start?
At the very start, it all began when I came out the womb. Honestly, I literally
Always a creative, just
posting like content,
bubbling with ideas from the very beginning.
Well, first of all, it's like obviously I come from a generation where I still remember a majority of my career did not have like Instagram. It had social media and it had like those platforms, those online platforms, but not Instagram, which has been integral to my career.
Right.
So when I say I was like coming out the womb, it was more, I always knew I wanted to be a writer. So I always knew I wanted to be in media. Actually, that's a lie. I always knew I wanted to write, and I thought I would do novels, and that's still kind of like a goal. That's still a goal.
So like an original storyteller, like always someone looking to tell stories.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then what I always find, I've been really good from a young age, and I don't know why. I should actually go and discover why this is the case, but I've always been good at following my instincts.
Interesting.
So another thing that always interested me more, like senior year high school going into university was psychology. So I double majored in English and Psych.
Cool.
I actually changed from a journalism program into the double major because I thought I would pursue psychology.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then but the whole time during university, I interned at magazines.
Interesting.
So then I thought to myself, and this is where I like listened to what I'm interested in, I thought to myself, I'm like, clearly if I'm spending my free time like unpaid work at these magazines, then I think this is what I want to do. So I kind of, and I also did not want to go to school anymore.
I feel you on that. I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I immediately just started, you know, applying for more permanent positions after school, after school, and then before I knew it, and I was always like a freelancer at heart.
Right.
So I really wanted to travel, and so anyways, all of these things kind of like mixed in a pot, and then it kind of came out to this end.
Wow.
So far.
Right.
So far,
Exactly.
yeah, I know. It's like
Still
still
to be
such an
continued.
evolution.
Exactly.
That's so interesting.
What I find really interesting, I know a common thing that I went through when I was kind of doing post-secondary, finishing up high school, you talk about your intuition really guiding you so strong throughout your whole life. I was always in that, I feel like, typical, whatever, young adult dilemma of like, is this the right path? Am I doing the right thing? Where do you think that intuition comes from? Like, did you ever have doubts, or you always knew deep down in your gut?
Always had doubts, but I think happiness is like is like my North Star, and I also think back to my childhood, and I think I grew up very independently. Like I had a very great support system, but coming from a divorced family at such a young age, and funny enough, like my parents live literally like a stone's throw away from each other.
Really?
They do not have a good relationship, but they made it really so that
that you could float between the worlds.
And we did. Like literally Monday, Wednesday I was at my mom's, Tuesday, Thursday I was at my dad's, and weekends alternated. But because it was like that schedule, they traded off the worry really easily. And so we and my brother and I had this unusual sense of independence, but still caring and fostering of
and
what
living
we wanted.
In some sort of structure.
Yeah,
still,
structure.
Yeah.
But and so I feel like that somehow played a role in my understanding me and my happiness and my intuition, and I think I knew from a very young age, like, you only live once. I don't know how, like these are words that I learned later, but like YOLO, but
you know, Zac Efron really put it on the map for me back in 07. It really set the standard. Yeah.
But I think if you put aside ego, if you put aside expectations, others' expectations, and you really, and that's where intuition is. It's just really tuning in yourself and think what makes me happy. Then it's kind of hard to make wrong decisions because you're only looking at your own happiness as long as you don't hurt others.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's really simple.
What are your, so obviously back to the SAD Collective and kind of like your, you know, mental health awareness, all these things that you care so much about. What are those like key things for you, like those happiness like pinpoints? Like, is it running? Is it
Oh yeah, for sure.
writing?
Running and I, as if it's like its own person. We have a different relationship than we used to when I was first starting out in this specific career.
Yeah, how did you get into running? I'd love to hear that story.
I always ran, and then I remember reaching out to someone at Nike, a person that I will always forever love. She's no longer there, but I just cold emailed her about this brow house.
Yeah.
That was like a popping up, and they have them like almost once a year.
Yeah.
This was like in 2013-ish
wow.
or something like that. Yeah, 2013.
I was literally still in high school, I think, back then.
And she invited me, because I was working in a magazine, we had to all trade off events that we went to, right? So I was sneaky. I was always like, no, I want to go to this. So I went, and then I guess I'm naturally a social person, so we chatted, and I kind of told her, yeah, I run on my own, blah, blah, blah. And this was before there was a Nike Run Club.
Right.
We were running out of, High Road was the original PR company before it shifted to Narrative, and so the media group was running out of High Road.
Oh, wow.
And then we met a run group at Black Toe, which is still there on Bathurst.
That's so
then
interesting.
we ran. Yeah.
So you've been involved for a long time.
Yeah. I was with Nike for basically, I would say from the beginning. They were doing NTC, which is the training that we do together.
Right.
They were doing
that.
that.
The house. Wasn't it like a Nike house at one point?
So actually even before then.
Oh.
Yeah, even before they had a dedicated
such an evolution.
We're like, we know what's up. The Nike house. No, before.
No, there is. It's called. It was the Nike Loft.
Yeah.
But before that, and in conjunction with when the Loft came about, we would have our media training at Academy of Lions on Ossington, and I really wanted in on that.
Yeah.
But this woman was like, no, you're more of a runner. Anyways, I had to prove myself, and so finally I got that invite into the Nike media, and that's also, I attribute a lot of my confidence and my audience and coming from around that. Like
that fitness community, the running community. It is really interesting because it does kind of work in a silos. Like, you can be in the influencer side of things in Toronto, but I feel like something about that fitness community is very small. Like, there's not that many of us that care about moving our bodies, like mental, like a lot of people are more like fashion blogger or all of these other kind of things, which is not better or worse. It's just interesting how tight-knit that kind of community is.
And I feel like it was really the Nike Run Club when I really got to know you so much more. I've always like known of you and seen you throughout the industry, but it was really when we were doing the training for the half marathon, which all of our podcast listeners roll their eyes because we were talking about it for far too long. Every single week, we're like, we're doing a half marathon, we're training, it's coming up.
We cared way too much.
So there was like a game, everyone's like, take a shot whenever they talk about the half marathon. But you were kind of like, you were a part of the team, but you were also kind of like our spirit leader / mental health go-to, and you were like really a guiding light, and I find you not only inspiring with your just existence, your words, your Instagram posts. Like,
oh God, those are
no, you're so great. If you don't follow Meghan on Instagram, she does not only a mix of her own personal content and then also her writing. Every other post you do, you're like white,
it's like a blurb.
Yeah,
it's
nice.
a
little blurb, and
poetry, inspiring words. Like, you're just like.
And
so
I have to say though,
refreshing.
I do that in spite of the low. Like, so I don't really. When I use these words, you know, whenever you verbalize something, sometimes it sounds like you're making a bigger deal of something than it is.
Right.
So I actually don't think about engagement anymore. I don't think about that. But what's funny is I share those things in spite of what I know my audience comes to me for. So even though I get a lot of DMs about it, and in person I'll bump into people and they're like, oh my God, I love your posts. Obviously I know photos of myself or experiences and what I used to do resonates better with my audience, but I'll like doggedly determine to, it matters to me. Yeah, and I'm like, nope, I'm gonna do this. It's for me. It's like what it like breaks it up. It makes it interesting and different for me, and I don't know. But I'm very that's like one of the things that I'm self-conscious about.
Oh, really?
So funny.
Well, I really admire you're always so vulnerable and open, and you have this like unapologetic sense of sharing your stories, your opinions, and just like
sense of self. It's like
words of wisdom, and I find that really inspiring because that's something I kind of have a hard time navigating, especially with the online world. I'm like, okay, I have a bunch of these strangers that are potentially looking into my life. So how do you navigate that line of like vulnerability and being so open and honest? Like, do you struggle with that?
I don't struggle anymore. So my foray into the mental health community started with my struggle in my marriage. It wasn't ever about my ex-husband. He was the most supportive person.
Right.
It was more me. We were dating since I was 20, so we were together for 12 years,
Yeah.
got married, and then I was launching kind of into this new career. So I had all these doubts, and I was like, what am I doing? And I always put him on a pedestal. And so that was my foray into the mental health community.
Right.
And that, oh my God, I'm totally losing my train of thought.
But that's okay. I feel like
more about being vulnerable online.
Yeah, so I shared a lot of my journey around that time, also to figure it out. Also, it was like part of my process. And then about 2 years ago, I kind of shut down. Like, because I even wrote articles on divorce. I wrote, and because I was in the mental health space, I felt this.
Is that when the collective was birthed?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was born about 5 years ago, and so I felt this responsibility. That's the best word. This responsibility to, if I'm asking other people to kind of share, even if it's publicly or privately, going to friends or therapists, I wanted to kind of show that as well. And then I just like went, okay, no more.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, it can be exhausting too, being so emotional.
It is exhausting to wear your heart on your sleeve. Like,
as
someone who also wears their heart on their sleeve, like, sometimes you get to a point where you're like, okay, I think I'm done sharing.
Yeah, but I think now I have, so I'm also doing this thing this year where I'm trying to eliminate a lot of things in my life, like, not, I guess the whole like Marie
Negative
Kondo's,
vibes, get it.
In your physical space or in your online space?
No, but physically, financially, I'm just trying to clean up a lot of stuff. But then I'm saying, like, for instance, I deleted all of my like streaming services. Yeah, I mean, I still have Netflix, but only because it's a friend. I use my friend's account.
Oh, wow.
But I'm like thinking
you don't pay for any external.
No, I'm not paying for
ongoing
anything.
monthly subscription.
And then so I'm going to use this as an example. So then my whole process is, okay, well, what do I actually miss? And then I'm going to replace, and I'm going to like thoughtfully add it back into my life.
Remove it all and then slowly build back.
She's curating the vibe.
Yeah, my own personal vibe. So then I'm trying to think.
Love this.
So that's how I tackle what I share now. So I went from, I feel like I overshared, but I guess I never really was an overshare, but I feel like I overshared. It took a toll on me. Then I stopped sharing.
Right.
But now I'm like opening up a little bit again.
Whether I share thoughtfully,
like reworking it.
With purpose. Yeah.
So a lot of that does manifest in my little like blurbs that I write.
So nice.
And then a lot of it, and I also want to, now that I'm kind of established as a mental health advocate, I want to show people that, because we have this internal struggle with our social media identity or just like our digital, what we put out there digitally, and I want people to understand that yes, it's brave to share, but it does not have to be in a public fashion. Like the biggest thing that the SAD Collective and what I try to push is seek help. That's it. And that's, again, with a friend, with a stranger, with a therapist. If you find solace in sharing your story online, then do that, but don't just do what you see other people are doing.
You don't owe it necessarily.
And that's what's really been interesting, I think, maybe more in our generation potentially, or at least what I've seen with some of my friends, is I'll read social posts sometimes from them that are really heartbreaking and things that, you know, they hadn't mentioned at that dinner that we had 2 weeks prior, but then it's, you know, this long paragraph sharing that, maybe they're going through something emotionally or like some sort of anxiety, depression, whatever it might be. And I will always reach out after and say, hey, I didn't know that you were going through this. I mean, I'm really glad you publicly shared, and maybe sometimes it's easier.
It is.
To write it out.
To put it in a long paragraph to share with the world, as opposed to sitting in front of someone face to face and saying, I'm hurting, I'm struggling.
Right.
Yeah.
Because that's the most vulnerable.
Yeah.
Right.
But we have to respect that obviously the digital world has allowed us to do that. So I mean, it's
and I think
double-edged sword maybe?
Well, I think it's just showing all of the options, but also then I think when I talk about being public, I also do speak to us too. Like, we do have a lot of strangers following our accounts, and we can be that beacon of like, look, you're not alone. And then just showing that, but also recognizing what toll that takes on our own thing, and being okay. I went from let's show the messy side of life, which I think. But I don't think we have to skew so strongly to one end to the other.
For sure.
And I think you both do such a beautiful job of living your life, and having fun and sharing things that you might be struggling with, but then also, you know, making a business and and being very clear that this is also a business.
For sure.
Yeah.
True.
Well, we talk about that all the time. That was kind of the original birth of Poddy Talk. We felt that our channels were maybe going too far one way and like, this is our perfect
It
life.
was too
We're
far
traveling. We're
on
living
the
our best
highlight
life.
reel,
Yeah.
which it still
And sure.
continues to sometimes be. But that's why the
that's part
podcast
of it,
exists,
but
so that
also-
we can be like, guys, we're not always
Totally. We want to
amazing.
share the inside and the
on
back
beach.
end and be honest about that, the ups and the downs.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, speaking of ups and downs, the podcast is the podcast where we should talk ourselves. We love to hear about the low lows and kind of maybe the not so glamorous moments that never get posted to Instagram.
Yeah.
Although I would argue that you would post them to Instagram because
Yeah,
you are so honest.
so good about that.
Do you have any of those defining moments where you're like, oh, I need to reevaluate, or things did not go the way I thought they were going to go, and you felt like maybe the world was ending?
Well, okay, so I have a friend, aka the same person that I steal Netflix from.
Okay.
And this
This
friend,
girl is being mentioned.
maybe boy.
Oh boy, true.
The real plug. The real plug.
Woo!
Oh, this table. It's okay. I break it every episode.
And you know, he often tells me he'll see all sides of me, right?
Right.
So he'll see like when I'm struggling or when I can't practice what I preach.
Right.
And I always say that often when I write about something, it's me processing that. It's not me like necessarily learning a lesson.
Right.
But obviously it comes off polished. It comes off maybe sage. But like I think one of my low, but this is a private low, is that when some people pick apart being like, well, you don't live that, you're not like that, or you, and you know what I mean?
That sort of like imposter syndrome vibe.
And
like,
I thankfully never have imposter because I
That's
know
good.
I truly know where I'm coming from with
Right.
those posts and with those posts.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one thing that I've been kind of thoughtfully like considering lately. And then, but like lows, oh my God, I don't know. It's really hard. I was reading your questions because you sent them to me.
Yeah.
And first of all, I was thinking about it on the way here, and I don't think about things as lows or like worst moments. I do truly, and this is so corny, think of them as learning curves, but like one thing that I've been doing is like yesterday I've been eating like a lot of cheesecake lately, and I can actually eat, you know, those McCain cakes?
Yeah.
I can eat one of those in a sitting.
That is a
And
skill
so-
set.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, that's more of
sometimes-
a success story, I would
I
say.
don't know, but like it depends. And
This was not the direction I
Yeah.
thought you were
Yeah.
like,
But I
cheesecake.
appreciate it. Because, you know, we've all been there. It's like sometimes I'm just like, I've really just gone south with my eating
oh no,
and
I
drinking
eat
and
a
everything.
lot. I eat
Yeah.
a lot. I'm always, and I think what could be considered embarrassing is like whenever I go to an event, I'm always like a work event. I'm literally the first person there.
Yeah.
If they have, I'll ask for doggy bags, and I'll like.
That's legit.
Food is something that I have. I'm very like a lot of my friends are kind of embarrassed
Wow.
by me being
Oh, really?
around me when it comes to
Oh,
food.
hang out with us then. 'cause
Yeah. You're on
we're
the wrong
foodies.
crowd.
Yeah.
I had like relish in my hair at this like one event for like most
Wait,
of
this
it.
is so funny because I've never seen you like on the prowl.
I've actually
for-
also never seen you
always on the prowl.
eat because we are always working out.
We're
So I
always
see
working
the
out.
totally different
Yeah.
side.
And the reason why I bring that up too is because I think I only share my workouts. I don't really talk. I'm not a
Right.
foodie. I eat really. I don't have like. I'm not a foodie. I love bring me to all of your restaurants, but I'm not like.
Right.
So I'll eat just like whatever.
Oh, interesting.
But-
What's the go-to? So cheesecake. What's like?
Well, cheesecake was just a mood.
It was just a face.
Like craft dinner, but like.
How was you the other night?
I literally ate Kraft dinner out of the pan with peas, and I was like, "Am I 5 years old,
Did you-
or is this the best day of my life?" I
and
can't
Kraft
tell.
Dinner just released like its own ketchup now. Or
Oh
something.
no
No
way!
way.
I didn't
Like,
even see
yeah.
that.
Wait, this is a
Season?
very important question. Are you guys ketchup in your KG?
No.
So I'm not.
am.
Me neither.
Yeah, but my best friends growing up would put ketchup
Yeah.
in their.
My
KG.
friends would
And
do
then
it
fork
too.
or
I was the
spoon?
only one that didn't. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
Fork.
such a spoon.
Oh,
Katie
no.
with a spoon.
Ah,
I do
thank
fork.
you. Thank you.
Spoon it. Just
No.
shovel it in.
But also, I don't cook. I assemble. So I'm very.
Oh.
So funny enough, I'm very
assemble.
healthy.
I really relate to that.
Yeah.
You're like, I consume.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I consume. I'm like at the furthest end of it. I
Yeah.
don't cook.
I don't cook, but I don't eat out very often.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I think it balances out. So I'll eat a lot of salads. I'll eat a lot of
Oh,
raw
that's
food.
good, yeah.
I don't eat too much meat.
Right.
And so so
So the
yeah.
cheesecake is balanced out.
Oh,
by
it
the other
totally
half.
balances out.
Yeah.
But I'm like it's like a mess. It's actually a mess, and not even
That's
trying
so
to exaggerate.
funny.
It's such a mess when I do
Oh,
eat.
that's
Yeah.
so fascinating. That was
Yeah.
totally not the way that I thought you
Yeah,
were going to go with it, but
I
I love
know.
that
No, I
answer.
like that answer too. That's
absolutely
really,
perfect.
really
I was trying to
good.
think of something. I'm like, I really truly find the lesson in everything, so I don't know how to word
No,
this.
that's
Right.
totally fair.
No, we say it all the time too. I think there is like all those hiccups in the road ultimately lead you to the path or make you reanalyze your approach and try something new. And ultimately, I think you can't have any true regrets in that sense.
Well, one of the biggest things I've learned as I delve and learn more about psychology and just our day-to-day lives is reframing. Right? Have you heard of this term?
No.
Yeah,
before?
reframing
I'd
your
like to hear your thoughts.
perspective and
Yeah, it's actually, I believe, and don't quote me on this, I believe it's an actual term that psychologists, or at least maybe even life coaches use. And essentially it's what I just said. You take what could potentially be a fault or oh my God, I can't even think of an obstacle.
Sure.
And you reframe it to see either the lesson or you just reframe
Find
it,
that
whatever.
silver lining.
Yeah, the silver lining, and it's changed my life by doing that. It's been really difficult to think about actual lows. And like, for instance, a really, to me, an embarrassing moment, but no one else who was there felt it, I guess, or unless they're being really kind.
Right.
I got hired last year, and I started speaking a lot more, like hosting and speaking, and I do get really nervous. I used to have this tick when I was younger doing speech arts, like my head used to shake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's the most disconcerting thing. But last year I got hired and I thought, oh yeah, I got this, I'm on TV now. I'm reworking a presentation I used before. No, so I didn't rehearse. I actually blanked, like in front of people, and I was getting paid for this gig too, and I blanked, and obviously I kept words going, but I felt like I was repeating myself. And
once you're there, you're spinning.
I was spinning, and my face felt so hot, and it
that's
was
the worst. And then you have the hot lights on you.
Oh yeah, and it was at a conference for digital creaters, which I don't even really necessarily consider myself a digital creator, but like I was mortified. I was mortified. But again, I think I was my own worst enemy in that case.
For sure. It's always a perspective thing, too. I've had those moments where I'm like, oh my God, I just absolutely, like, whether you're on a live air segment and you completely butcher what you're supposed to say or it didn't go the way you wanted to, you are always so much harder. And then you'll watch it back, you're like, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. Or half the people are so distracted in their own life.
That's what I'm saying.
No one actually cares.
This is what I always say, remind myself of. I'm like, my worst is still better than most people's best.
Yeah.
I know that sounds bad, but it's like when you are an expert in your field and you are coming into something, even if I had my worst day, which maybe
your standard is so much
it's
higher.
like my personal standard for myself is so much higher that even if I did my worst job, I still believe it was probably better than, like, that's when I just have to be like, dude, you're here for a reason, you did it, not your best, but like, continue.
We have to be our biggest cheerleaders, right?
100%.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta just be like, woo, that was
good enough.
That was good enough. And sometimes
or make
that's
fun of yourself.
That was good enough. Like,
Or make fun of yourself. I love that. I feel like the premise of this podcast.
Yeah, we need to laugh at ourselves.
We love to laugh at ourselves.
Well, honestly, Kate, a hilarious story. I don't even know if I shared this on the podcast. It actually happened right on the set next door on E-Talk. So this was like maybe end of summer. And it's like such a dumb thing, but I was like absolutely mortified. I don't even think I like posted clips of this interview because I was like, I cannot like publicly share this on my end. Like if it's out there, like that's fine if someone finds it, but I'm not like promoting this. And it was so unfortunate because
why does he keep doing this?
Sorry.
Oh my God. He scares me every time.
Megan, we have
Keep doing your thing, No, can I speak to your manager?
It's the worst when we have guests on because the poor guests don't know what's happening.
I don't know how
This
to make
is
this
Derek.
work. I'm trying to stay they won't let me stay for 2 days and 4 nights.
Oh my God.
Bring this outfit just for this
negotiating.
day?
No, listen, just do your thing, guys.
He works in the
Derek,
building. He is
I
a
want
welcome
millions
guest.
if you're online with a producer.
I'm not going to be in the hotel during the day. I just need it at night. I need 4 nights and 2 days.
And
okay, listen, no, it's just I'm going to be gone during the day.
No, like we don't know how to navigate these break-ins anymore.
Listen, I only need to sleep
It
in the
worked.
fucking bed. I don't want any goddamn room service.
I want room
service.
service.
No, listen.
Derek, what is
You're gonna take the
happening?
credit card.
Also, Derek, please show the pink shoes
Guys,
on camera.
I'm in the middle of something.
Did you bring this outfit just for this bit?
I can't have this conversation, guys.
Derek the agent.
Can I just,
Oh my, that is some of his
Our
best
show is
work, I
nothing
will
without
say.
Derek
I
and
spoke to you about this already.
So angry.
I'm so sorry you just had to experience.
Yeah, this is the experience of Derek. I'm
How
shocked.
do we even sum that up? Like, I don't
Okay,
even...
basically, Derek, so I used to be an intern here.
Okay.
This is the long and short of it. And catching up people if they don't know what's going on.
Oh my God,
I
this
was
is just
Derek's
too much.
intern like 2 summers ago. He works at the social and he like gets the audience, like he's an audience coordinator. I would help
He's like
him.
the hype man for the audience. It's like,
Yeah.
and clap everyone.
I mean,
then-
his
but
so much
energy
more.
was
It's insane.
Yeah, it's chaotic.
And he also
It's-
comes from like a comedy background. But anyways, the long and short of it was he's come on as a guest on the podcast in recent times, and we've like been on his kind of talk show, and then also like we just started this like friendship relationship, but it's really gone far.
He now
And
interrupts every
he'll
episode with a
interrupt.
bit. Like he fully plans it out.
But not every episode.
He's just
That's why
plugging
I get
himself.
alarmed.
He's just plugging
It is-
himself.
It is, but I
It's
get
just like-
scared. I screamed again. This is gonna be
It
a
is
cut down
scary.
again because I freak out.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, that was just
Jeez.
too much. Well, it's awful. Now someone created an Instagram account called Derek of Poddy, which is just an Instagram account dedicated to
Do you
his...
think he created it?
That's what I said. I go, did
We
Derek
literally
make
were like,
this?
Derek, did you?
But no, we
but
think
he
it's a
didn't.
girl in Australia.
She
There's like a
literally
fan
posted
who's like,
it.
I love the Derek moments. Derek
Comment
is
below
king.
if you created Derek of Poddy. I'd love to know.
Anyways, that was so out of context. I'm like, I don't even know where the conversation
Yeah, I
was
apologize.
before. Wow,
I
sweet
feel
Lord.
like we were going somewhere deep.
I know, we were.
I know. Well, that's the thing. We go with Derek. Like, you gotta be careful with your moments. Because we had a guest on before. He came on with like hot towels, like as if he was a flight attendant. So he'll be like, "Ma'am, here's your
Yeah, it
towels,
was
wipe
so
down."
much.
And our guest was like so confused. And, like it was not the right timing, which kind of made it even better. But
No, it's great.
that's the
I love
potty
it.
talk, I guess, part of it.
Yeah, we can't
Anyways,
control
back
that.
to E-Talk, that segment.
yes,
that's where
that's
I was
what we were
going.
talking about.
And anyways, it was a chaotic day. I was running from location to location, probably overbooked my schedule a little bit, was running in here. I didn't really necessarily know the whole context for this interview. I know it was speaking to the idea of beauty creators in the YouTube space, digital age, that kind of thing. They were doing a whole like YouTube
I'm
segment.
gonna find this today just for my own.
Oh God, no! I
self-entertainment.
actually have the whole. They sent me the clip in the end, and I was like, I can't believe they let this go on air because basically, so it was like a hot summer day, so I'm like sweating. Also to the point that like I came in and I was a little like not flustered, but kind of flustered, and
when they don't give you that moment
well, same.
to like
I thought we were
collect
gonna
yourself.
go in, say hello, like kind of set up what we're gonna chat about, and then like go to the bathroom, take a minute, like powder, like touch up.
Right.
I literally sat down, like, okay, we're on air, and like I was like, wait, what? Like they had put the mic on, and like we just started going, and I didn't even realize like that what was saying was like we were live. Well, we weren't live; it was cut down, but I didn't realize that we were recording right away, so it was a little too like I kind of like be like, oh, can we stop and like
Yeah.
I don't know. They
no.
were yeah. So I was like, oh, kind of like not thrown into it, but I guess I could have in hindsight taken a minute to be like, hey, you know what? I actually just need 5 minutes. Like, let me go to the bathroom. Let me just like
you're
brush
flustered.
my hair.
You're
But I just kind of
flustered.
was like going with it, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyways, so this footage is. This is so like I guess narcissistic or vain. I am literally dripping beads of sweat, not only down the hairline, the point that the hair is wet at the front, and like literally the upper lip, like, and it's like a tight close up, and I'm like, this is like, why didn't someone just say, hey, let's just like blot this off or like,
Right.
like
It's kind of weird that no one called it out.
Yeah.
I will say that is a
Unless
bit
they
of
thought
an
it was your
age
look.
thing.
Maybe
yeah, like dewy, fresh out the
This is her
ocean.
look. This is her beauty
is-
look of 2020.
And then also the irony of me talking about being a beauty creator as I'm literally melting on camera. It was horrible.
This
I
though
would
is
be
a
mortified.
good.
It was bad. It was
It
bad.
is bad, but it's a good lesson I think for all listeners. But also like as an age thing, I think a lot of young people will not take that second to say,
Totally.
you know what, I need 2 minutes. And that comes with
It was.
experience
I was
and
totally
age.
flustered.
And when you're flustered and someone's like, hey, we want you, it's really hard to then collect yourself and say, you know what? I'll be there. I'll just be 2 minutes. I'm
Right.
going to take my second.
That's
but
what's so
I've
annoying.
seen
It
in
would've
my
taken
time
60
very
seconds.
professional people do that, and I always really appreciate it because I'm like, you know what? They needed a second. They handled it well, and they come back. They're totally ready. They're
Well,
like
that's
good
the
to
thing.
go.
You respect them more because they're like, hey,
Totally.
I can even give you better content, a better
yeah,
interview. If
I will
I'm-
be better if I
take a
have that
minute.
2 seconds to collect
So
myself.
I do always have to
Yeah.
remind myself now,
Yeah.
take a breath, but it's hard. I'm very excitable. I'm almost like a chihuahua.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I'll get like
same.
and
Yeah,
like get
yeah, yeah.
going. So it is hard. Even Tor will tell me sometimes, like, Jaclyn, take a
Yeah.
breath, calm down.
Yeah.
But it is true. Sometimes I need a reminder, and that was one moment, literally captured on camera, where I was like, oh. Physical reminder of why I need to breathe into it.
It's one of
and
those
take a
weird
moment.
things like time. I think people don't realize like how precious they can be with their own time. Like often we think that other people have the power. Like I'm thinking like in an audition setting when a director comes out and they say, we're ready for you now. Why can't I just say, I'm gonna need 5 minutes? It's
Right.
it's up to me to create that time for myself.
Directing that
but
redirecting the
it's
power
redirecting
struggle.
the power and saying, you know what, I need a second. Which I it's now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really hard to do that.
Well, I found it interesting when you were talking too about right before you go to do that panel, the interview, the
Yeah.
on air, whatever. You have that like sense of nervousness still.
Yeah.
'Cause that's something I still get before anything because it's I think comes from a place of excitement. If
Yeah.
you care about something, you want to do well, you get nervous.
course.
And something interesting that actually an acting coach like years ago was telling me about, we were like working on like breath work and like speaking, and she goes, we were talking about nerves and how that affects like your vocal cords and lungs and all that. And even talking about the idea how nervousness presents in people differently, whether you get clammy hands or dry mouth, or you feel the butterflies like in your stomach, or your lungs tighten up. And what she said is, I don't want you to try to get rid of it. I want you to like lean into it and breathe into it and be like, yes, my palms are getting sweaty.
Yeah.
That's what
is
it
your
is.
nerves? What is your nerves?
I definitely get like sweaty palms, but I get the little pit in my stomach.
So do I. That's
like
what
little,
I get.
But
I get the like, I need to run to the bathroom.
Yes. Like
never puke, always the other way.
Always shit my pants.
Literally, basically, potty talk. Anyways, yeah, so I will poo myself when I'm too nervous, but that's actually not the worst case, because I think it's worse. One, I don't get it in my voice, which I'm thankful for, because when I do presentations,
I talk fast. You'll know. I'm like,
right.
blah, 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 blah.
When I used to do presentations, if I was feeling just an off day, I don't typically get nervous in those settings, but if I was, luckily I never have it in my voice, so I would sit down and I'd be like, guys, I was so nervous, and my friends were like, what? You sound so chill, like you don't notice it.
You're an actor.
And I'm like literally trying to poo myself on stage.
What about you?
But, like,
How does your nervousness present?
So it presents definitely in my voice. I would say I feel it more in my chest than my stomach.
Interesting, like the breathing.
But if I'm if I have to physically perform something, which is like I guess running or something physical, then I'll feel it the other way. But I also want to clarify. So I'm very much a yes person. I've always been a yes person. I think that's. So actually, I have another answer to your intuition question. It segues a little bit, but I'll go back.
Sure.
I think because I say yes a lot, I have a better understanding of what I don't like. I think it's really so. I think I always have. I'm always kind of jump on the bandwagon of movements, and some movements are like self-care and like saying no and boundaries. But then I always fear that who is listening to this advice, right? So what if someone who is on the extreme, like agoraphobic, is that the word? Or more relatably is just, introverted. So they're looking at boundaries and it's validating them saying no. Instead of
that's really true.
So there's like flip sides to all the advice that you see on the memes on Instagram or whatever. There's always flip sides. So for me, I just that's why I have to learn to listen to me, read things or see things or take advice, but understand what works for me.
It's so true.
And so I say yes a lot. So because I said yes a lot since such a young age, I have a better understanding of what I like and what I don't like. But I also know, just like our taste buds, it changes. So like I hate goat cheese, but once a year, I'll try it. Because I'm like, maybe it'll change.
Right.
Maybe it'll change. So that's also something that I kind of listen to myself.
That's interesting.
Yeah, for other things in my life. But oh my gosh, we were talking about how my nervousness presents itself.
Right.
So in the vein of saying yes, so you two have an amazing, I don't know, like on-camera personality. I never thought I would be on camera.
Oh,
like
really?
I wanted to be a writer. I love being behind the scenes. I love, and then over my career, I've started producing programs. I love doing that. And even though on Instagram, I
you
love
are your
photos.
brand.
Yeah,
And
I love photos and I love stuff. When it came to doing this, it was so out of my comfort zone.
Interesting. You would never know.
No, you would not.
And that's also why I said last. So I'm also, for the record, I'm turning 36 this year. So last year when
you
I
look so young. Oh my God! For all our
Give me your
viewers,
skincare
cry,
secret.
please cry. Yeah.
Please.
sleep, lots of sleep, lots of water.
Yeah.
But I had mentioned last year was the first time I really truly started speaking more, like hosting and kind of like delivering, I guess, keynotes in a way. I was still always on panels, but that new experience, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what my limitations were, what I had to work on, and understanding that just because I'm older or just because maybe people see something in me doesn't mean I'm polished by any means. It still means I need to be prepared. Still means I need to practice.
Totally. I think that all the time too, because as much as yes, naturally I can sit in front of a camera and typically it's not alarming to me. I'm just like, oh, okay, another day in the life. It's really interesting when I watch things back because I see my own tics and the things that I actually really hate in my own performances. And I think a lot of people won't take the time to circle, let's say, back to the keynote that was live online to watch themselves fully and see how are you speaking, what are your kind of connotations, like how do you come across to the audience? Am I coming across relatable? Am I coming across like I know everything? Am I coming across like I know nothing? Like what is the
I
perceived?
think it's really important to always look back, and it's interesting. I feel like talking to a a lot of other like YouTubers or people who spend more time on camera, a lot of them say they hate watching themselves back and rarely ever do it, which I get to an extent. Like, sure, I get so sick of my own voice when I'm editing, seeing it all the time. Like, I get it. You don't want to, the last thing you want to do is watch yourself again.
Of course.
But in terms of learning, I think it is so valuable.
It's so valuable.
We've talked about
With
it
a
before.
critical perspective,
Totally.
Not just like, oh, my hair
I
looks
look
bad.
gross. Exactly.
It's more about the actual.
It's basically editing, like when I write an article or I write anything,
Exactly.
I have to reread
You have to.
I also understand like a lot of things I'll throw out there is just for fun, but when it comes to other things, so actually you guys had a question.
Yes.
And I'm trying to also say, stop saying you guys. I'm trying.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, it's
No,
fine.
no, it's actually for me because it's
Okay.
like trying to say folks more, be a little bit more
Gender
neutral
Yeah,
and
gender neutral.
pronouns,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness, it's such a hard one to kick. So
You can just say friends,
Pals.
pals, my pals. Yeah.
one thing that I remember in the questions, it was one of the best pieces of advice.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you
What
have
do
a
you
good
have to
answer for
give?
this? 'Cause I would love to hear.
Yeah,
I love how she knows our questions better
Yeah,
than
like
us.
we're not even setting this up. You're
in
like,
your
I'm ready.
questions that you sent along.
because
No, I love
segues,
it.
I
It's
think
good.
It segues
It's good.
nicely. Well, it was. I worked for this online magazine that I both love and hated, and I know I sometimes I think I hated it more, but no, I did truly love it. I was there for like 6 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah, and I it was freelance too, so I was able to live in Vancouver for a couple
that's
years.
awesome.
I
Cool.
travel a lot. And I learned some of my most foundational lessons there from mistakes and also just from great things. Not all my mistakes, but like anyhow.
Others.
My boss, he's one of the most fearless people I know, and he would always have this advice, and it sounds so basic, but I'm going to elaborate. It's basically nothing will ever be perfect, just do it. And we hear this all the time, but
It's a
I
nice
think
little Nike check as well.
right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that we forget is, okay, well, why isn't it perfect, and why should we just do it? So first of all, we just have to get over ourselves, obviously, and just do it. But why it isn't perfect, I find interesting. It's not because we're making mistakes necessarily. So say, we're all three in a space that we're doing something to share with an audience. And that actually is the case for most, even if it's a one-on-one relationship,
Right.
where often what we put out there is going to be interpreted by someone else.
Yeah.
We cannot control their reaction or what their interpretation of what we're putting out there.
True.
So regardless of what we think is perfect, it's never going to, if it's meant to be seen by an audience, it's not always going to satisfy others.
There's always
It's
that
so
variable.
true.
So it's kind of like teetering between understanding that if that's what our calling is to share, that one, we have to let go of that control and,
So true.
and let go of that idea of perfection, because people are going to have opinions more than ever now with social media.
Of course.
But on the flip side, that's how we get feedback.
Right.
That's how we
Yeah,
learn.
do you
I know.
want to be in a yes man world where everyone's like,
I
you're
know.
incredible, you're
Yeah.
amazing, I love it?
Yeah,
you can't grow
exactly.
from that. You'd be so static.
Yeah,
It's
but,
true.
And of course we can, hire professionals to give us feedback or show it to our friends. But at the end of the day, again, if our goal is to put it out into the world,
Right.
we need that feedback, or else it is going to fail.
We're going
You
in
know what I mean?
circles,
Yeah,
yeah.
like whether you're trying to sell a product or write a book or
It's true.
have YouTube video like followers or subscribers, it's just it. But I think it's scary to relinquish that control, and it's scary to get constructive criticism back.
Yeah.
But that's the only way, and that's the only way I've ever succeeded, is
Oh, I love
kind of
that.
nipping that fear and re-understanding. But you know what I mean?
Reevaluating,
Reevaluating, re-understanding what it means to not be perfect. It isn't perfection for us. It's like understanding that it'll never be perfect.
It's
Right.
really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to do that. And I also think, at least in my personality, I feel very unempathetic in the sense that I am very unapologetic about who I am. So I don't always welcome feedback because I think, well, I'm happy with it. I'm living my life. And that's not necessarily a good
And I'm
thing.
completely the opposite of that. So I actually,
Wow. I
yeah,
feel like
we're
I have
very
the devil and the
different.
angel, but not the
Yeah.
devil or the angel. Just I have
Yeah.
two like.
well, you know what? It's so funny. So we never have guests sit in the middle, and as I'm realizing, having the guest in the middle makes them go like this the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you're feeling like
no, it's okay.
you gotta look at both sides.
Although I like this
The
side
devil
of my
and
face
angel.
better.
Yeah.
well, that's okay. We actually normally have the guests looking that way. So next time when we bring you back.
Yeah.
But on the reverse, I actually used to kind of get caught up with the idea, especially when I was first starting out more into the creative space, and being like, if it's not perfect, I don't want to put it out there. But
You
then
definitely
also
lean towards more perfectionism. So does my
Right.
boyfriend.
And I'm
it's-
also very, as much as I don't let necessarily criticisms or negativity online narrate where I go with my content. It also, though, I'm very receptive and want to hear about it. Like, I do value that, and I think that's also why I like the community platform of a place like YouTube.
Right.
But on the flip side, it's actually hindered me, and there's been times where I felt really stuck because I'd be like, oh my God, I can't put it out, it's not perfect. But then again, I heard this really amazing, I was reading this book actually, it was by, I'm blanking on her last name, it's Elizabeth Gilbert, that's it, it's called Big Magic.
Yeah.
And there was this one whole chapter speaking about how, again, mainly creative fields, but how it's much more productive and you'll progress way faster if you put something out that's at your 75% what you think is perfect, or you put something out that's just great instead of never putting out something that's perfect.
Or never putting out anything at all.
Exactly.
Like, this is like my biggest thing. I've never, and I'm so it's funny, we're so on the other spectrums here. She's very detail oriented. You're more of a perfectionist.
You're big picture.
I'm totally big picture. I'm like, put it out there, live your life.
I'm you.
Like, we're all dying trying to get it right, so I may as well do what the hell I want.
And that's why I bring up that idea of perfection, because I think we as humans just want to control things, right?
That's so true.
We want, and on your end, we want to just control our happiness and say fuck it to everyone and like we're just doing it. But then on the other extreme end, not that you guys are necessarily extreme, but then we want to control how people perceive things or what, like the words that we do put out. But at the end of the day, so that's our struggle, is like control. It's not even perfection. And so if you just let it go.
So true, it is control, I think.
And if you just let it go, and that's what I mean, like understand that it won't be, nothing is perfect, because there's always like what we say, haters or critics or whatever it may be. If we just let it go and then steer towards what you're saying, because that's what I believe too. You just listen to yourself. If it makes you happy, take the feedback
as you will,
and hopefully learn from a lot of it. Especially again, if your career is like dependent on an audience, so you need to learn. But at the end of the day, if you don't do it for you, because that's another side, very well connected, and then I can just keep on going on a line of like advice.
I would say all day. I can listen to your words of wisdom. Words of wisdom. So look up to everything you have to say. So I'm looking forward to this interview today. Like, I can't wait to hear what Meghan has to say.
But the other thing too, I'll get, and I actually don't get it as much as I used to, but I'll get questions about, you know, how do you get where you are? And again, I don't know, that's not exactly the question, but basically
it's always like, what was your path to success? Like, people want to know
a linear answer.
Hey, I was at A and now I'm at B and now I'm at C, and it's just, that's not life.
Yeah, and also like, well, I have this idea, but I don't have the perfect name for it, or I don't have this, but I'm like, or I don't know, and I just think if you're doing it for you, at the very basis, like again, it's like everyone has a question. If you ask the question, other people have that same question. So like, if you just do it for you, someone's gonna resonate, and it's for some it's gonna be a 1,000,001 people, and for others it'll be maybe 100 or something, but someone will still resonate.
It's true.
But if you're doing it for you, you'll be happy.
Well, that's the thing. You're the one that goes to bed at the end of the night and has to like live with yourself. So 100%. If you're spending your whole life's purpose on making the commenters happy, your career, all that, like
you're gonna be unhappy.
What is the point of life?
So unhappy.
Totally. Wow, that's so fascinating. Well, speaking of mental health and happiness, I am so curious to hear, some more about your practices on how you maintain your mental health. I know one thing during the Nike when we were training for the marathon, half marathon again. You provided
now she just yells out marathon.
I know, the marathon actually, You're
just putting it out there. You're going to do
half marathon. You actually gifted all of us women training these amazing mindfulness kind of journals, which some were prompts to get you started in the day, some were some gratefulness, mindfulness, things like that. So something that I do every morning is like my 5-minute kind of journal and do like 5 things I'm grateful for, 3 things I'm looking forward to, things like that. What are your daily practices that you do that you know instill a positive outlook?
So I actually wrote an article about this for United Way has a publication called Local Love, and so I wrote this.
We'll link it below. We'll send it to us. We'll link it on the video.
Because I actually I write specifically about gratitude, a gratitude practice, kind of like journaling.
Interesting.
So as much as I love writing and I identify as a writer, I can't keep a journal for the life of me. Like I just
really?
can't. Yeah. So this is what's really funny. I understand the tool of it.
So
I
you
understand.
gave us journals and you don't even journal yourself?
Yeah,
I don't
even
journal. I can't.
Oh, I'm
I
such a
can't.
journaler.
But so this is the thing. This is what I said in what I wrote in the article, is that everyone has their individual practice, and I think I was embarrassed by it for a little bit. Like I'm embarrassed that I can't sit and meditate. I'm going to practice. Actually, my goal for March is to meditate.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
For 30 days straight, and then hopefully it turns into a habit.
Nice.
But so very, I guess cliche ideas of practicing happiness and gratitude or mental health, I can't do.
You know what?
Well, I don't fit that
I'm
mold.
the exact same.
Yeah.
I don't love meditating. I don't journal, but I do think there are things in my day, like to your point, everyone will find that happiness in different things. For example, pouring a coffee in the morning and doing my makeup slowly in my own time while watching Netflix is my form of meditation.
Yeah.
Sipping my coffee, doing my makeup, like I love the process, have a little show on in the background. That like 30 minutes for me is so peaceful. It's my favorite time of my day, and it's like, that is my form of meditation.
Well, I think it goes back to like kind of what we were talking about, even with communication skills. Like you were saying, some people, it's easier for your friends to post a caption on Instagram opening
Right.
up versus communicating in real life. And maybe that's the same like in my situation. Like I find it easier to journal and write out my thoughts. Maybe versus you, who I know you like go to your
I'm
friends
totally
for
like
therapy
sit
and,
with a glass of wine and we'll chat
Totally.
for 4 hours about the same topic.
So what are your unconventional practices then?
Well, first of all, I do want to make a note that there are literally proven benefits, like scientifically proven benefits of keeping a journal and of meditating. So
keep up the
so,
good work.
yeah,
Jack,
just
Jack.
credit it.
keep
but
up, yeah,
if
keep
it
up the
works
good
for you,
work.
it works for you.
But
If
also,
not-
I do think it's something that we should try to instill in ourselves. So that's just a note. But running has always
Yeah.
been like an active form of
Meditative,
meditation
yeah.
for me. So this is where I kind of steered a little off the side when I wrote that article. But when I was researching, because I had to do some research for it, it came up as like kind of like practicing happiness, but it's volunteering.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's nice. Giving back to
Interesting.
others.
Yeah, but it was very hard. I found it hard to write because it sounds like such a do-gooder thing, but it really is just, especially in our industry where we can be in a bubble in a very potentially superficial way.
Oh, for sure.
Very-
Very privileged, specific
Very
lifestyle.
privileged way as
heightened
well.
and glamorous and all
Yeah.
of those things.
I
Yeah.
think it's really, really key to find a place where you shed that and then
I
you
agree.
gain more perspective. And
For sure.
and again, it's comes from a very privileged place to say this, but it does open up your perception of life. And
well, even traveling.
yeah, traveling is a huge thing.
Huge.
Huge thing.
You're
just
so
like
exposed
to all the different
Oh
cultures.
my gosh, yeah.
Traveling has been something I've done for years, and I wish there was Instagram before.
I
'cause I'm
know.
like,
You would have all the
Right.
adventures to
oh, like
share.
best photos too. Like I look
Yeah.
back at photos, I'm like, what was I thinking?
On a
That's what
disposable camera, one photo. Yeah. Could be stylized though.
It's true though. Those like moments you can't, like Adam and I, or my boyfriend and I were in Vietnam last summer, and my like favorite memory was us literally sitting on the road, cooking our own chicken on the streets, like the most random, like hilarious moment. And it's just like such a great memory. And I was like exposed in this culture and this food, and people were like sharing with us and helping us cook. And it was just like, this is so great.
one of the best things that has ever happened, and I've had a lot of great travel memories, but one that I'm like, for sure I would
Fond
have
of?
tried to capture on a phone, even though you could never.
Yeah.
So I was driving at night in a van of friends in Sri Lanka.
Oh, cool.
So we had just done, I was on a family tour with my best friend who's Tamil. I'm half Sri Lankan, but I'm Sinhalese. So, but I was with her, and we had done all this family stuff because she was there for a wedding. I just tagged along. It
Yeah.
was. Yeah, it was again. I think I travel for my happiness because I was going through a thing at that year, and then so we were gone for a month. So the second half of our trip, we decided to do a road trip in Sri Lanka.
Cool.
Like it's this tiny little teardrop island, and we went west to east, and we're driving at night, and all of a sudden, I don't remember who said it. I feel like I did, but probably not. We look, and there's a baby elephant, a wild baby elephant running alongside of our van or our truck or camper van.
crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I have the memory. I'll forever have the memory. But we didn't have like it was like
Is it
It's
really?
uncapturable.
Yeah,
I know, you start to dream.
I think
You're
it was
like,
2010 that I was there, so I didn't even
was the
really have
Motorola flip phone
yeah,
age,
I didn't
yeah.
even have like the
Camera.
phone to do that. it's so.
It forced you to be present, though.
No, but
which
I
is
was
the
so
beauty of it.
present, and
True.
I'll never lose that memory. I think it's probably even better in my mind now.
And
than
that's
it
true,
was.
too.
Yeah.
It's like a
You're like, the sun
heightened-
is shining
Yeah.
through, and it's
Yeah,
darker
yeah,
than the
yeah,
water,
yeah.
and then the elephant emerges.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so perfect.
This whole thing.
But another, I guess, thing, simple day to day is my tea. Every morning I'll have my tea. I'll walk my dog.
like,
What are you, a
Um,
green tea person? Hit me
no,
with the rundown. Black tea?
I'm a steeped tea from Tim
Yeah,
Hortons.
yeah.
I do not have the best. I do not have
Hey.
the best.
Love
Everyone
the steeped tea.
Yeah, the steeped tea.
I love
oh,
it so much.
It's literally. I've been growing up on Tim Hortons tea my
I
entire
know.
life, and
Yeah.
then when they introduced steeped tea, like it's right there directly in front of me. It's
Oh,
done
yeah,
now.
you brought it
No,
today.
but it's
Oh.
done. It's
Oh,
that
it's done. I was
extra
gonna say you
large.
could have brought it.
And
I feel like
then-
I've seen you with this before too, like before like workout classes.
Always. And then another thing would be obviously working out and running.
Right.
And but I'm very much like I love sleep. So I
same.
listen. I do a lot and I work really hard, but I have been always from day one a true believer of not overworking myself.
Yeah.
Sleeping in when I can. I think that's why I couldn't do The Office, because like I would literally be like, oh, I'm feeling sick. It's because I wanted an extra hour of sleep.
Yeah.
Like I can't do a 9 to 5 for the life of me.
Yeah. You're like, the freelance life is the life for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it really all comes, it's so lame, but it all comes back to instinct and
Sleep
like
is so
listening,
good, yeah.
listening to myself and what my body needs. And I don't always know what my body is saying. I don't always know what my mind is saying, but I have a better understanding, I think. So
Yeah, you're much more in tune, I would argue, than anyone else.
I try to be.
So
I try to be.
I think you're doing.
I do wallow a lot though.
do you mean
I'm
by-
a wallower.
what do you
so
mean?
Like wallow in your emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, so like that's
Oh.
one thing that I think I need to work on, is that I could just spend a week in bed crying when I know, yeah,
wow.
it's not cute. It's
Interesting.
not cute. So
But I'm
there's
sure
things,
pros and cons, because then maybe that leans into how you are so vulnerable and open.
No,
No, it's bad.
It's bad.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. You know yourself.
Yeah.
Fair
That
enough.
is so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't want to. I'm not perfect, right?
No,
There's
yeah.
like all like and then also saying it out loud to you or
Makes
in the
it
audience,
real, yeah.
But it also is like I am aware of it. Doesn't mean I practice it all the time.
No,
but it
and
also,
also-
is relatable. Like,
Yeah,
let's
it's
be
relatable.
real. We're not all
Everyone
waking
has
up.
their own quirks. Like I have a film and television, let's call it addiction, in the sense
Oh.
that, yeah, in the sense that like I sometimes, like in the sense that you say you're a wallower, I'm like a film buff. Like all I want to do some afternoons is like literally curl up
yeah.
and get excited and watch a movie, which is like just not it. Like I'm like, this is a work day, like get your life together. But that's my form of wallowing. Like I'm just like, oh my God, I want to just sit and watch Harry Potter all
That's
seven.
what I just did. I literally
Yes.
just watched all Harry Potter.
And I
and
just
was like,
can't.
the
I
best.
can't explain it. I find a lot of peace in rewatching things I've
they're
already
friends.
seen.
They're honestly our friends
Yes,
too. Like
it's a really weird thing, and I've discovered it more and more as I've gotten older. This weird sense of like reliving things. I will watch Gossip Girl a million times over. I will
Every
watch
night
Sex and the
before
City.
bed, I will say she watches
Yeah,
Gossip Girl,
and I
falls asleep
don't.
to it.
And
I
don't
fall
know if
asleep to
that's-
Friends.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like,
Is that a comfort thing? Maybe
it's
you can
100%
speak more
a
to this because I don't know why I do this.
Yeah,
I
what's
just
your
know that I do
psychoanalysis
it.
on this?
I believe it is a comfort thing.
Okay.
It's like our
A
little
a
blankie.
self-soother.
It's
Yeah.
a blankie, yeah.
I do think it. So for me, when I did get divorced and I'm now single at home,
Yeah.
home by myself, and I've always lived with someone, always
Right.
lived with someone. And I remember, so I found it so fascinating because I would remember getting so angry about like the TV being on, or like,
Right.
but also.
It's like this weird form of comfort. Yeah.
But also, I think it was that this other person was watching, and it could be a friend too, or my brother or something. If they're watching something, I'm falling asleep, and it's their thing, it doesn't bring me comfort. So
Interesting.
so for me, right now in the last like year, literally, I've just been cycling through Friends before I go to bed,
Yeah.
and I don't watch it. I put the screen on black, I put it quite low, but it's their voices.
I know.
That
I've
is
done
like-
that too. It's
yeah.
really weird. It's
Yeah.
almost like a lullaby
It
is.
for
It's
me.
your
Like
own
I just,
form.
she always laughs. Sometimes I'll fall asleep even before the main like
Title
Yeah.
sequence. Yeah.
Like,
I'm like,
she's
Corey,
like, girl,
2
what are
seconds.
you doing? You literally just turned this on and fell asleep.
Yeah.
But it's like my lullaby. It just kind
Yeah.
of puts me to bed.
Yeah.
And similarly to you, like, I mean, I live alone and I love living alone. I have no problem with it. But I do think I have a comfort in television because it is the sound of the room. Like, because I'm not talking to myself.
That's so true.
It's just this sort of white noise.
And we
Right.
don't work in, like, I don't think you guys
No,
work in
we
an
work out
office,
of
so
our work out
of our
it's the same thing
houses.
for me. I work from home, and I love
Yeah.
being at home, and so but we miss that interaction.
Totally.
It's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's actually funny. I was going to bring this up earlier when we were talking about running, because I was going to say, oh, you actually gave me the advice of listening to a podcast when you run versus listening to music.
Yeah.
This past year, I've gotten way more into listening to podcasts than ever before, which honestly started from running, from that piece of advice.
Yay.
So thank you, first off.
What are your favorite podcasts aside from your
So
own?
right now, I'm listening to Girls Gotta Eat. I listen to Views by David Dobrik just because I find him fascinating. There's another one called Don't Blame Me, which is like an advice podcast. I have like a variety, but I'd love to like rack your brain after. I'll write a list of your faves. But yeah, no, it's funny. I was thinking about this the other day because my new routine every morning as I'm kind of like getting ready, even when I hop in the shower, like eating breakfast, I'll like play a podcast, and I much prefer that to music in the morning. And I think it is that thing. I live alone, and I don't have that conversation with someone in the morning like I would normally. And so it's nice to, hear humans talking.
Yeah.
Which
And maybe that's what's weird too, is like when you grow up, you're so used to like as a kid running downstairs, people are making breakfast. It's such a like, I grew up with dogs and so many siblings and my parents, and it's like,
even just speaking
then you
about
just
those
flip it on
mundane
its
things,
head.
and come back, you're like, oh, this happened today, blah, blah,
I
blah.
know.
Like, you kind of miss that now
It's
living
weird.
alone, which could be a good or bad thing. But yeah, the
is
podcast,
strange.
or I see people now, whether it's you're watching a YouTube video or whatever, it kind of fills that void, which is so weird, but also the day and age that we're in.
I think relatable for people.
Yeah, like that's my reality.
Not to plug it by any means, but I have
Please plug along.
the new Google Nest Hub, like the big
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Oh,
with
I
the, with
love
the
my
screen.
Google Nest.
Yeah,
She
with
has
the
them too.
screen.
You have the screen?
Yeah, so that
I've got just the mini.
No,
You're
I
way-
have the same, but the Amazon version with the screen.
Yeah,
and you
okay,
can,
so
What does it
whatever
do?
it is, so I just have it in the kitchen, and now, so I've been doing this thing this year. I'm really trying to adult to the extreme, and so far I've done it manageably. I'm not like tripping up or anything.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know. Let's knock on wood.
Yeah.
But so I'm doing this thing where I'm habit stacking. Have you heard of habit stacking?
No.
So I've talked about it on IG a little bit, but essentially my best friend told me about it, and apparently there's a book. I'll try to dredge it up somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's this really, so I think sometimes we try to improve our lives drastically without realizing that there's a way to essentially stack it and make it part of our already existing routine. So
Interesting.
in January, I started it with, oh no, I thought that was someone else. Sorry, that was Poddy. So the first one the first thing I started with January was kind of like its own thing, which was just lemon water, super simple. But I was struggling. I used to start my day with lemon water all the time, and I struggled putting that back into my routine since my divorce.
Right.
So it's just like, oh, Megan, it's so simple.
Right.
So that was the hardest thing in January. It was just like actually getting out of my bed and having
Making that the new routine.
Making it my new routine. So then February, this month, I stacked that with vitamins. So as soon as I
like
go
this.
downstairs, and then I'll bring up why I brought up my Google Nest, because I actually stacked it with two things without realizing
Oh my
it.
God, she's double stacking.
Yeah, I'm double stacking.
I love this.
I know.
I
So
need to do this.
Adulting.
Yeah, so much adulting going on.
Yeah.
I even hired an accountant. I'm 36 or
wow.
35, and I only hired an accountant for the
Oh
first
my
time now.
God, good for you.
Oh man. So I as soon as I put in the kettle, and I actually the night before I'll have my vitamins out on my thing,
Nice.
but then I'll take my vitamins as I'm waiting for the water to boil.
that's so good.
And then I say good morning Google, and when you
And then I say good morning.
No, literally.
I talk to a robot and
I
tell them
talk
I
to
have
a
human
robot.
connection.
Good morning, Google.
No, but I do. I say good morning Google, and it starts with the weather, and then I programmed it and it goes through all the news.
Oh, I love
Yeah,
that.
it'll go from one news to the next for like maybe I guess like 10 minutes of updating me.
interesting.
Are you
And
an early riser?
no, so
Depends on the day.
I've said I'm a day person. I'm
This
not
is
a morning
This
person.
is the new stacking, just getting up earlier.
Yeah, no, but I'm not. That's actually my goal for. I mapped all the habits I want for this year. So I
Aw,
think
that's great.
May is waking up earlier.
Wow.
But I'm not a morning person. I'm not a night person. I'm a day person.
Yeah,
Good
so like
mid-afternoon.
noon is
I'm
like
a good
perfect.
yeah, like I want to wake up around 7:30, but I'm only out of bed at like 8:30, and then I
Right.
want to be back in bed at like 10:30.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a night owl. I'm not an early.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm a day person. I don't think we get enough recognition.
That is true.
No,
Yeah.
because I can actually really relate to that.
Yeah.
Like I don't get up necessarily super early or super late. Kind of similar to you, 8 o'clock is like perfect for me. And then I'd love to be in bed by 10:30.
Yeah, I think it's because we're
I
freelancers.
shine at like 1 p.m.
Yeah, we always say that, like 11 to 1 is like our like
prime
peak
time.
hours. High performance.
Yeah,
It
like I
is.
try to make all my meetings at 2. Like when I try to make them too early, I feel like I'm frantic, I'm rushing, and I have a dog
You know
as
what,
well.
that's very true.
I think it's so important with productivity. It's like know what hours you do perform
know
best.
your
I don't care
truth.
if it's 2 a.m. or 1 p.m. or 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
Like you figure that out and base your schedule around that because productivity is so key. And
I will say, I think like a 9 a.m. I mean, we did call you for 9:45 today, which is early, but I think a 9 a.m. is just wrong. I think like a 9 a.m. meeting, no one, I'm sorry, no one is fully engaged. People are eating their breakfast, drinking their coffee,
Yeah,
I kind of
answering
agree.
other emails from the day before that they haven't tackled.
they're still setting up
They're
and-
still setting up. Like I really do think something about like a 1 p.m. We said this. Fresh after lunch, catching people fresh after lunch is chef's kiss because they're fed.
that is chef's kiss, baby.
Because they are fed, they are happy.
Yeah.
They've gotten all the work out of the way from the mornings. They're caught up on their emails, and you're catching them fresh off the boat.
Yeah, I agree.
That is the perfect
Although
moment.
I do appreciate once in a while the early 9:45 is not early. The early morning.
It's true.
I know people are rolling their eyes. We're like, I have to get up at 5 a.m. for work, but
I
it's all
do
relative.
appreciate actually the early morning workouts.
Yes,
I do like
yes.
that.
Oh,
and
I
actually-
see. No.
No,
Hard
so
to
I
get
really
me.
like that.
I don't. So I prefer again working on the afternoon or evening. But I
Yeah.
do work out in the morning because I'm again maybe it's age, but my body requires to warm up a lot.
Yeah.
But what I do love having the luxury of waking up later. But when I do wake up earlier, I'm just like, oh my God, there's so much of the day.
Right.
Yeah, it's so nice.
And so that's the thing, and I do understand. I actually saw someone got flack for talking about their goal being waking up earlier.
Right.
And I thought to myself, I'm like, well, it can go both ways, like understanding that, not to disrespect anyone who has to wake up at 5 a.m. or who have shift, oh my God, I can't speak.
Shift working.
No, it's
Shift
okay,
work.
it's okay.
But that's also, that's hopefully your choice in a way, especially shift work. It's if you're a police officer or like a nurse or a doctor, that's something you went to school for.
Right.
Like and other people
Hopefully
shouldn't.
you're happy in that.
Yeah,
totally.
and then for me, like genuinely, I'm just that's what I am. I'm a day
Right.
person.
Yeah.
But so a goal to wake up earlier is just something for me. And if I talk about that, that's like something I talk about. And then recognizing that other people live different lives is just as
And
important.
sometimes
Sure.
it is for those more personal moments. Like I don't always get to spend a lot of my nights alone because it's like I'm such a social person, so I'll always have like dinner plans or like
Right.
movie plans. Like I'll always kind of have something. So I feel like setting my day up earlier just gives me the time to say, okay, that 30 minutes that I love to have my coffee and do my makeup, that's my me time and no one is bothering me, so it's my own.
That's what I always say. I say, obviously, it's all relative. Like, yeah, waking up early, staying up late, working throughout the day, whatever. But we all have that same window of whether it's an 8-hour workday or give or take. But it just could be shifted in other people's lives.
Yeah.
Like I know often in our careers, whether we have like later events or speaking engagements,
Yeah, we're
or
out till 10:30 at a work
you're
event.
on
That's
until
not-
11 p.m. at night. So then I
Right.
need still a few hours to wind down. So then that might be a
Right.
later night for me,
Yeah.
and then that's why I start later. Like it's all so relative. So
Yeah.
sometimes I find it interesting when I speak to people who maybe aren't in more freelance positions that they can't relate. They're like, well, I'm structured. I get up at 8 and I'm home by
Yeah.
5. And
yeah.
I'm like, but then you have from 5 to 12 p.m. at night to do whatever you want. Where
Yeah.
most of the time we don't have that luxury.
There's pros and cons both
Totally.
ways.
But also something that I think about a lot, especially when I was going through something rough a few years ago, is what we consider work, other people see as fun, especially because we position it as
Right,
fun.
right.
And so I still remember having to. This is going to sound such like a pretentious way, but I had to educate some of my best friends not in this field. Like I am actually going through a hard time. Just because you see me at this or that, like
Event,
I have to be there, or I feel like I have to be there, or I actually am getting paid to be there.
Yeah.
And
This is a work commitment. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's hard because it doesn't sound relatable. I
doesn't,
talk about
yeah.
this all the time. It's hard.
That our
necessarily-
lives are not necessarily relatable.
Yes.
Right,
Yeah.
and it can almost feel, I feel this way oftentimes speaking to people that aren't in this field. It's, where was I going to go with that? That was my train of thought.
I'll jump in because I think it's exactly what you did. You set a standard with your friends. I think I have advocated for the last 5 years to really educate my friends about the fact that this is definitely a job. I definitely work hard, and I feel very respected actually by my friends because no one has ever made me feel like I'm not working hard.
That's so
like
true.
I have a
I
group
feel
of friends
lucky.
around me that are like, Tori, you work crazy hours. You're at every event. We see you everywhere. You're on the road all the time, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad you're acknowledging that I'm literally not just out here YOLOing, which
Yeah.
like, yes,
Yeah.
I am YOLOing.
Yeah, it's still
Like my
fun.
life
A
isn't
lot of
waking
it's
up
still-
taking just selfies all day.
But
Yeah.
I do appreciate that they are understanding of the, because
Totally.
I care more about what friends think of me than like the general
Yeah,
public,
totally.
obviously. So if they are acknowledging that they see that I'm being a good person and working hard, I care about that, and that's nice.
I
so.
got my train of thought back. What I was going to say, same vein as that, is it's actually like the personal validation. Sometimes I
Yeah.
don't let myself feel validated for being like, oh no, you can complain about some things. Life isn't
Right.
always perfect
Right.
and traveling and fun and like, no, you can complain. Even though, yes, you have a blessed job, you love what you do, you can still have
Yeah.
moments of frustration.
Because
and
that's
okay.
just, and that's the thing, especially like knowing who you can go to and talk about these things, of course, is also key. But understanding like if you clam up about this, like I always think about celebrities, right? I literally like actual like A-list celebrities,
Yeah.
and imagining how isolated they feel, and
course.
not knowing like who they can necessarily turn to, but then like.
And
Other
having
people
less
can,
of a circle to trust, like who
and
can
then,
you trust?
And then a lot of people can like maybe, I don't talk about this often, but I'm sure I can hear a response already in my head being like, well, you know, they asked for this,
it.
or they make millions.
Yeah,
I'm
who
like,
cares?
but money doesn't bring
Yeah,
happiness.
it's hard
you know
to-
what I mean? Like
Exactly.
it doesn't. And actually, on the flip side, speaking about, remember buffering time, like you go into you know, a space and you can and feeling like you can ask for like a couple minutes to
Yeah,
be prepared.
sure.
Something that I'm learning like this week, I'm not sure when this is airing, but like I'm going through a loss in my family, and thankfully you two asked me if I was up to this. I'm like, yes, it'll be a great distraction, and whatnot, whatever. I don't want to get into it.
Of course.
But that being said, I've either reached out, or other jobs have reached, or other clients have reached out to me being like, we can extend your deadlines, like what do you
that's
need
really
this,
nice.
or
That's
or
really
working
sweet.
with me, or like just asking me like what I need.
yeah, like are you
Checking
okay?
in with people.
Yeah.
And I actually saw something on Twitter last night. This woman who, I don't know this one, she just popped up on my Twitter feed. It looks like her son is missing in the States.
Oh.
And she wrote something like, she actually wrote something, I'm distraught. I don't, like, he's been missing since Saturday.
Right.
Please help. And then also said, I don't know what to do, but I still have to post for work because I have to make money. So whatever I post,
Right.
like, disregard. But then I thought to myself, so I thought two things. I'm like, yeah, good on you. Like, I've been in that position where I have to post regardless
Totally.
of what I'm feeling. But this also seems like an emergency.
Sure.
Like, your son is missing. Maybe it's
Right.
not what it appears to be. Maybe you're just, maybe you're being a
More
very
dramatic?
worried, not dramatic, but just a worried mother, and maybe
Right,
it's
right,
not.
right.
Maybe you kind of have an idea of where he
Yeah,
is.
but it's not
Right.
the worst case scenario.
But maybe it is. Like the way it read, it looked like it potentially, like
be
knock on
worst
wood,
case
it could be
scenario.
worst case scenario. I think that is a moment when you can go to your clients and say, or not even do anything, miss
Yeah.
those deadlines,
Right.
just people will learn to adjust around that.
100%. If I'm
yeah.
honest, I wasn't even sure if we would get a response from you, and I was so comfortable with that. I was
Sure.
like, I don't even need her to respond.
Right.
We could go on with Wednesday, and we will figure it out. It's like, I think you have to give people that leadway to be like, hey, they'll get back to
Yeah.
you when they can, and when it's like, when they can
For
when they
sure.
can tackle it.
It's
you
so
know?
true. I think it is just like a good reminder, not even just in this day and age, but throughout time, like be gentler with people.
It's
like,
true. It's true.
At the end of the day, what we always say too, like I'm a makeup artist. I'm not saving lives.
Yeah.
If I'm creating a video, a YouTube video, it's not. And of course, yes, take your job seriously. And I think we can talk about professionalism for hours on hours, but it's also kind of removing that in some senses and being like, it's gonna be okay. If this video is one day late,
Yeah.
the world's gonna keep going.
Oh yeah,
And
the
prioritizing.
And I still remember, I think it was two or 3 years ago, and I wish I remembered exactly what was happening in the world. I feel like it was the man who killed a few people in the car up in north, like you remember?
Oh,
and I think
was it the boys?
I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Anyhow, so I don't remember. Anyways, it was a
tragic
very
car
tragic
accident, yeah.
accident, or no, not accident,
Oh.
but killing. But like very tragic
Oh.
event happened in Toronto, and a woman posted a photo and addressed the accident as if to
Oh.
make it timely, being like, I know this just happened, the city's in mourning, but here's my new coat or my new shoes. And it was very...
Wait, what?
Yeah. And I remember
Yeah,
that.
be better. Like, untasteful.
Well, what's interesting though, and this is to be a little empathetic to her, and so again,
See,
this
my
was like
lacking of empathy came through right
no,
away.
No, but it's true. That's the response people sent, and I think it's valid. Those actually,
Right.
I do truly believe that that response is valid. But we are also in this such a unique space of like she clearly wanted to. She didn't want to just post, and but it was a tragedy that didn't affect her, so she had to
Right.
post. So she then wanted to be mindful
And
of this
acknowledge
thing,
it.
but like it came off so crass,
Tone
and
deaf,
it came
yeah.
so
Yeah.
tone deaf,
Yeah.
and I'm sure her heart was in the right place, but it was so bad. And then
That
I
is
realized
funny.
that's a great example of what the mess that that our social
Digital
media
world can
have,
create.
because you're all these things are happening in the world. Like the world is dying, for
Of
instance, and we
course.
can
Yeah.
constantly talk about
Right.
that. We're not, because for obvious reasons, but like there's always so many things going on. So it's kind of understanding, again, asking for that time, even in your own head.
Yeah.
Step back. And I've even had to tell friends, like when I was first starting out, oh my goodness, like I was like, yeah, I'm taking stupid ass jobs that I don't want to be doing, but I just left a supportive partner,
Yeah.
and I'm making my own, like
I'm making my
making
own
my
way.
living on my own for the first time. I have to say yes to money that I don't necessarily want,
course,
but
sure.
that even eroded my mental health, like saying yes to things that I
Yeah,
didn't.
jumping into that, like we had in some of our questions, like
Oh, yeah,
sponsored
questions.
posts. Back to the questions, like partnerships.
Yeah.
You know, sponsored posts. Like obviously, you didn't start necessarily out. I mean, in the digital world, because that wasn't a part of it. But when the monetization of content had came along, what was that like for you? What was that transition like?
It was interesting. I think your first question too was what was my first job, and I think
Yeah.
you guys are gonna love this. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Oh, I would love to hear this.
I'm pretty sure this is it, and
Okay.
I could be, maybe I'm missing one little thing.
Yeah.
I think my first gig was to promote Pitch Perfect 2.
No
Oh,
way.
Wait, that's a legit
That's
first
legit.
deal.
Mine was not that, and I will not
But
say.
it wasn't like, it was a DVD, so
Yeah.
they just sent me this DVD. I think I got paid like $200
Yeah.
or $250.
I think I got paid $250 for my first
Yeah,
deal too. That must have been the starting rate
Yeah.
back in.
And I was also in my mind being like, oh, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like they're
Like I'm gonna
pay-
hold this up so well. I'm
It's
gonna
funny
pose
how,
so
like,
nice with this DVD.
It's really weird, like your perception too, because I remember thinking at the time, whatever it was, 6-7 years ago now, when that all happened, I was like $250. I was shocked. It's like, and the way that the whole industry has snowballed and changed is,
Yeah.
of course, crazy and insane that it's grown so much. But yeah, no, I'm curious. So then, okay, so it started with Pitch
Started with
Perfect.
the
and then-
DVD.
yeah, it started with the DVD.
Which
and
is
then-
so funny because I don't talk about my love of pop culture and music and
Right.
not music, sorry. I love music, but
Movies.
I'm not. Movies and
Yeah.
television. And I actually talked about it last year for the first time, and then I got a job at TIFF, which was great.
Oh, that's
so
hilarious.
I do love it, and I anyhow, but it's so funny that my first job was this, and I don't
Yes.
even talk about.
Yes.
Did it just fall into your lap? How did it come to
I think
be?
it fell into my lap. I honestly can't remember exactly, but
excuse me.
basically
Yeah.
it fell into my lap.
And then do you continue to manage all your partnerships and things to this day?
So I actually did have an agent for almost from the outset, but because I had relationships with Chapters Indigo, Nike, and Mech at
Yeah.
the time, like before I signed on, I already had this. So so when I signed on, they were like, you know what, any existing relationship,
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah, you
can
have that
And
handle
that's
it.
before.
fair, yeah.
But I asked for forgiveness, not permission. I think I sent this in an
Yeah,
email
yeah,
today.
yeah. I was gonna respond, but I was like, how do I say I'm cheeky and say, haha, me too? Because we're the exact same. We're like, we'd
Yeah.
rather just ask for forgiveness.
So
like,
and I've always been autonomous. If there's one thing in this whole conversation, it's
Yeah.
just like I've been very independent. So I took a
Totally.
lot of liberties with that little
Relationship,
the
yeah.
relationship. And I was with my agency I was in the original roster right up until beginning of 2019,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then. What I realized too, though, is they helped me so much. I learned a lot about my worth and my value, but they're a business as well.
Yeah.
And as much as they did have my back in so
Yeah.
many ways, I was still making money for them. And so when
Sure.
when I wanted to opt out of a program or not do it, or you know, I couldn't hear myself anymore because I had too many voices in my head. I couldn't follow my instinct. Like
make
I
those
yeah.
decisions.
There was like one job where I actually couldn't get out of bed for 3 days because I realized, so I had basically messed up a job about a year before. I learned my lesson from that, and that job was it's very hard for me to do work or do client work that requires me to have a product.
Interesting.
Unless it's like beauty, like makeup is so fun and that's just
Right.
so
And that's
natural.
easy,
It's so easy, but when it's like a thing,
A
even
DVD per se?
Yeah.
DVD was fine. I will never knock that one, but like I don't want to call out anyone.
No,
but like
fair. I
it
respect
was
that.
like just anything with and I'm very
Let's just say
honest.
an apple. It could
An
be
apple. Although I like apples, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like it
Don't
was
wanna
like
diss
a
the
thing.
apples.
Yeah, it was a thing that
Sure.
was very hard, and like I learned from that lesson. Like, oh my god, I'm
You're like,
just
this is
fighting.
off brand for me.
Yeah,
We're not
so
doing this. Yeah.
It wasn't even off brand. It's just for me personally.
It
it's
didn't
hard.
feel right, yeah.
So then fast forward a year later, and again I wanted to do this job. I loved the messaging, but I knew I was going to have a hard time. So we really negotiated. We were
Right.
like X, Y, and Z. Megan can't do
Yeah.
this, or else let's just opt out. It was a lot
Sure.
of money, but I'm like, let's just not do it.
Yeah.
So they supposedly heard me, but there were so many revisions that I remember looking up like a couple weeks later. Once I like created the content,
Yeah.
and because it happened so subtly, I looked at the last final image. I'm like, wait a second, that's exactly what I said I wasn't gonna do.
Right.
But because there were revisions built into the contract, they essentially revised
Got you to
it.
do
back.
exactly what you didn't want to
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
And then my agent, because now they're in the middle,
Yeah.
and they're stuck in the middle, and they're trying to
And ultimately, they have a
navigate it.
paycheck to
Yeah.
get.
Yeah, so there's so much. There's like being its own business, but then also trying to make two parties happy. And
Yeah,
it was like
sure.
a lot. So like I'd never blame. I mean, at the time it was very nasty.
Yeah.
But I never blame. It was just like a bad
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And I think also I was like in the height of me being a mental health advocate, like really, really better understanding myself,
Yeah.
what brings me happiness. It really took a number on me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't actually physically couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
It got to the point where that client was threatening a lawsuit against
Oh
me.
my
No
God.
way.
I was like, what? It was
Whoa.
so bizarre, and I was.
Did you end up completing it, or did you
I
end
only
up
completed
failing out?
half of it,
Okay.
and then funny enough, the second half was the job that I wanted to do.
Oh, that's too
Right.
funny.
Yeah, like I had to do the first
Right.
job for brand awareness in order to do the second thing that I was actually excited
Right.
about. And I ended up severing that
Relationship, yeah.
Yeah.
But then also that was the moment I realized I didn't want to be with my agent anymore.
Yeah.
Or my
Interesting.
agency, but it took me 6 months to really figure
I
that
was the
out.
exact same. When I left my agency, it took me about 6 months to
Yeah.
get to that place. I think when you have that comfort, and similarly to you do have to give credit where credit is due, and they can really, and for people starting out, I really do believe there is so much value
Same, I completely
in
agree.
attaching yourself to, you know, companies that have those relationships.
It helps legitimize.
It helps
at the beginning
legitimize,
as
and
well.
it was also great for me too. But very similarly, I had similar experiences where you start to feel a little bit like I'm losing my agency here. I don't mean agency by agency. I mean agency in my
Personal
ability
agency,
to
yeah.
make my personal agency and in my ability to make my own choices. And also the advocacy piece was huge for me. I will be a better cheerleader for myself
It's a
than
lot of
anybody
work, but
else.
it's a lot more work,
Yeah,
but-
and you have to love it. You have to love the business
Yeah.
side of it.
And
But
also, so another thing too, I always think, well, what if that agency goes belly up, or what if they don't believe in me anymore, and
Yeah.
then now I don't actually have any personal relationships with these clients.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
I think they didn't like that I had coffee
Yeah.
with either the PR
And that's where
agent-
the most value really lies.
or the clients directly. And I always did that. Again, I'm older, I'm comfortable
Yeah.
with that. A lot of people were my not friends, but like
see,
colleagues.
that's I really hated that, because you know what, in
Yeah.
our industry it does become personal very quickly.
does. That's
I mean,
the nature
we
of
were
it.
literally in
Just on vacation
on
with-
vacation with like a director of beauty at a PR agency that runs, you know, many brands that we work
we
with
developed
day in and
such
day
a friendship
out.
with
Yeah.
because we work with them so
Yeah.
often.
But there's nothing wrong with that, and I think that's where the intermediary people, those agencies, can get very complicated,
Yeah.
because people want to be in on the conversation.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways. I wanted to be in on the conversation. I hated when I
again,
was taken off CC.
Yeah, again, at the end of the day, it's just like understanding it, and one of the worst things is I'm terrible. I want to get paid, but I'm terrible at invoicing. Just give me some money.
Now that's
But
why you have the accountant.
Yeah. you're like,
hopefully.
PayPal?
But
Yeah.
that's why
An agency makes that part
and then,
easier.
and then reading over contracts, like I'm very bad at reading. So that's what I need in
Sure.
someone, a manager almost, like
Yeah.
not even like or whatever the word is. And I'm actually kind of looking into potentially getting someone like that, but at the same time,
You
I'm
can
like,
hire me, Megan. I'm just kidding.
you're too busy for me. But it's so everything suits its own self.
No,
But-
it's true.
And then I remember being afraid last year, and I realized, so I finally like tallied everything up, and I'm like, so I made just a little bit less than
Yeah.
I did the year before, but everything I did, I loved.
It felt right.
Yeah.
Everything I did, I loved. Like,
That's so great.
I was like, wow, there was
And it's funny,
Honestly,
that
those
piece
aren't
is invaluable.
Yeah, that's
Whether
really
that's
valuable.
a couple $1,000s less in a year,
Yeah.
who cares? Like, your happiness
Yeah.
is so
Totally.
different.
I don't
Well, and
wanna,
you can go back. You don't need to archive any of your posts.
That was just about to
Were
say
you?
that.
LOL.
Like, you believe in
No
it, and I'm happy
archiving.
to show someone.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Sometimes I archive just because I feel like it's a lot.
Yeah,
and
or it doesn't necessarily resonate to the current
Yeah.
day. You don't want
Yeah.
that to be the static reflection of you.
But at the end of the day, like, yeah, I did not want to archive anything.
That's
that
so
is a true
nice.
test
I
of
think that's
time.
what actually why I was threatened a lawsuit. I now remember I archived. I like posted something, and almost 2 days later, I archived.
Oh,
it.
an
And
immediate
they're like-
archive.
I was I was so angry over that job. That was the worst.
Oh,
job.
no.
I've heard certain stories of that too, and it's really interesting because you hear, I truly try to hear the brand side and, you know, the influencer side as well as I can. Like, I really have so much patience from the brands because I get it. They're spending a ton of money. They have a huge expectation. But there was situations even this summer where I had friends that work on the other side, like the brand side, and posts had been archived by influencers, and they're just like, like, we paid all this money.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like,
especially if
so
it's
I get
contractually
it.
laid out
yeah.
to have things up.
Well,
like, I
for
get
sure,
that.
No,
for
there's
sure.
definitely,
But then
like-
it's our faces in the brand. So if we hate it, then we're like, archive.
But that's why we shouldn't have said yes. to
Exactly,
this.
exactly.
And that's why
It's
I
on
was-
us. It's on us.
Yeah, it's on us. 100%. Like, I'm all about taking responsibility.
Totally.
If anything, speaking about like letting go of control, and it's understanding the only thing you have control of is yourself.
Yeah.
Totally.
Again, that's like the biggest thing, and that's why I had to leave my agency because I couldn't hear myself anymore.
Yep.
And I always say, especially when it comes to accepting third-party partnerships and collaborations and things like that, you initially, when you read an email, when you answer that phone call, you have a gut instinct like, oh, I love this. This is so perfect for me.
Yeah.
Or, okay, maybe I can find a way to make it work. It'll be a little annoying. Like, you know immediately.
all the
and
way.
my goal of last year, and I'm proud to say that I did stick to it, I go, okay, this year is not about money. And it can be easy. I'm very business driven. I'm very in tune with my finances. I, of course, want to be doing as best as I can. And it's hard sometimes to say no when a job seems almost too easy and it falls in your lap.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, I could just do it, whatever. Maybe it doesn't really resonate, but I'll get that paycheck. And I made it that my goal last year to say, no, I'm only going to accept jobs that I truly resonate with and not worry about the money.
Yeah.
And that is something that I really carefully hold to my heart taking forward as well, because you have that gut instinct. We are
Yeah.
in such a great position to work in a creative field and have the luxury to fulfill that passion. So, like, why would I be doing
So I
anything
have
less than?
2 questions for you.
Yeah.
Did you feel like, could you actually feel the difference of like your happiness level?
Oh, totally,
Yeah,
totally.
right?
Well, it's also like I could see it when I'm in the edit, when I'm watching a video and I'm sitting like this and I'm like, okay, I'll turn it on. Hi, it's Jaclyn. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
Versus me just genuinely like
Living
being-
your life,
Exactly.
yeah.
And then
Like,
the second question too,
Yeah.
did you find, so I found this, which I didn't think I would find it so immediately, that other opportunities presented itself that was even more
Totally.
aligned to you?
Oh, exactly. Well, that's the thing. You have a clearer message with what you're putting out there that brands resonate to that more, and you attract the brands that you want to work with more. And if anything, then I have longer term partners because they're like, oh, we can totally see that. Yeah, you love living a plant-based lifestyle. You want to use cruelty-free makeup products. Now this new cruelty-free line came up. We think you'd be the perfect advocate for it because that's your message.
Yeah, it's quality
Me trying to
over
take a piece
quantity.
of every pie made no sense, and
Yeah.
that wasn't my truth.
Yeah.
Me being very clear with my personal beliefs and what I want to put out there and what I want to support
Yeah.
is actually way more powerful.
I think the biggest thing,
I didn't understand that though right away.
yeah. I
Yeah, I'm not there yet. And like I can honestly say that. I am
Mm-hmm.
literally so financially driven in life. I'm a Leo. It's like
Mm-hmm.
money is
you always wanna
happiness.
up it,
100%.
Right? Yeah. That's how I
But I will say
know what's
it
interesting?
doesn't affect my happiness.
Okay,
That's
good.
what's weird.
You can detach it.
Totally. It's so detached from me. I'm like, business,
You're an actor.
pleasure.
You know
I'm
what?
an actor. I'm like, I don't care.
No,
like,
You know
sure.
what I love about that is I actually am, so I'm Gemini, but I also have Leo in me.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much, I'm wondering if that's my trait because
Yeah.
I love always making more, but it's not about the money.
Right.
But what I had to say, so if I could make, how do I say this? So I'm like you in the sense that like I can say yes to certain jobs and it could be about the money and it'll be fine. But I had to, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right way of saying it, but I had to
just
separate was
separate.
I think I had to be very careful with what I advocated for,
Right.
Because I'm in the mental health
For sure.
and I'm trying to be more of that like give back person.
No, for sure, for
and,
sure.
And because is at the core of the brand
Of the belief,
that,
yeah.
and the
Right.
belief that I want to be, to use those terminology,
Yeah.
that terminology that I try to stay away from these days. But like because that's where I had to be more careful.
Interesting.
It's true.
because anything else I did outside of that, even if I made sense to me as a person,
Right.
I felt if it eroded that message, then that's where potentially
Where it goes wrong.
I'm curious, do
Yeah.
you feel that you are under a harsher microscope or get more scrutiny because you're in the mental health space?
No, I think I get so
I would
much
say
more
less.
support.
You would get way much more love.
I don't think I've had one hateful message.
Yeah,
Really?
that's so nice.
And even
Oh,
if I
can't
had-
relate to that.
But I think
I'm gonna play
YouTubers are
b-ball with your
different.
head. She gets the most hilarious comments.
YouTube comments are
That's my
funny.
favorite.
Oh yeah, I think YouTube is like a whole other beast.
Yeah.
But like I also kind of like to, if I do pay attention, because that's the other thing, I don't really pay attention to like negative stuff. But when I get like a random DM, usually I'll actually have a conversation with.
Oh,
that
we'll
person.
respond?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
not
I do not
always,
engage.
Not always, but like I'll always. Not. I just said always. I not always, but when I do, I approach it like, teach me. Tell me what you're thinking because
Okay.
this is what I was thinking.
Right.
You
So
don't
I
just
actually-
fight back with
Oh
someone.
no, I never fight. I don't. I mean, it kind of can sound fight, like depending on how that person's
Yeah.
reading the text.
That's too
I
funny.
can be aggressive.
Sure, but you're
but-
like inquisitive. Like, why? Why
Yeah.
do you feel this way?
Just let me know.
Yeah.
Keep me posted.
So-
Well, that was like someone replied the other day. Did they ever reply back? I meant to
No.
ask you. Someone had
Someone
DM both
had
of us,
DM'd both
being
of us
like,
saying, "Hey, do you mind if we give you, some honest feedback about Poddy Talk?" And I responded, "Sure, would love to hear."
but
it.
then they never gave us.
But then they never gave.
It
the
sounded
feedback.
like it was going to be bad from the the
did.
beginning.
And they probably weren't expecting you to be
yeah.
open to it.
No, you were
Sure.
like, yeah, hit me.
Yeah, I was like, "Let me know."
Yeah.
But yeah, if that was you, we're still waiting on that reply. So
yeah, we'll
circle
take
back.
any feedback. But yeah, no, that's so crazy.
That's so
I also had a
fascinating.
really good idea that we can, because we've kind of gone over, but in a good way. It would be really nice to cut this into like a 2-part episode where it's all just about the mental health, like.
I know. Well, I feel like we
journey and-
actually.
I know what time is it. Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
No, but
sorry,
that's
we are
great.
running over because I could talk to you all day. I think we need to have you back for another episode as well.
Yeah.
But we love
This
to.
time I want to match.
Hey,
Yeah.
You know what? We're working on merch, so we'll hook you
circle
up next
back.
time.
In the
Yeah.
meantime, we'll get Joe Fresh
In the
to get
meantime,
you
this
the-
Joe Fresh
Yeah.
fit is incredible, so comfy. We will link it down below. Love Joe Fresh. We always wrap up actually each episode with Roses and Thorns, which I feel like I might have talked to you a bit about. It's kind of like a high-low game. It's like a reflection, kind of also a gratitude game that we like to play. We do this every day in our real life. So what we do is one thorn, which is one negative thing from the last like 24 hours, something trivial. It could be that you want to get off your chest. And then we do 2 roses to outweigh the 1 thorn, which are 2 highlights from the past 24 hours that you want to share. And then 1 rosebud, which is one small thing you're looking forward to in the short term.
Okay.
So one of us can kick it off so that way
Yeah.
we can show you how
Sure.
the game works. Tori, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, so thorn of the last 24 hours. Oh, yesterday I didn't sleep well. Like last night I slept amazing, but the Monday evening into the Tuesday was just not a good sleep. Yeah, so I was really hot and bothered, and you don't get a good night's rest, and then you just feel
Sure.
crazy. So that was a thorn. Rose. Oh, I saw Chelsea Cutler perform last night. She's 22 and such a free spirit. Was literally wearing sweats on stage.
Oh,
and
really?
was so chill, oversized tee, great energy. Sounded amazing live. That was such a rose at the Danforth Music Hall, and I like that venue a lot. Just it's a nice
It
vibe.
is really nice.
And another rose was Adam and I got new prints, and we went to the custom framing store and got them custom framed together, which was really fun, and I liked that experience. So that was a rose. And a rosebud, we're doing a girls catch up tonight with all of
Yeah, that'll
our
be really
homies
fun.
and friends at Toroni. We love
love a pasta and
love
wine
a pasta
moment.
and wine moment. So I'm excited for that. And yeah, that's the game.
Okay, I'll take it away next so you have a bit more time to think because we
Yeah.
threw you on the spot there. That wasn't in the pre-prep questions.
Okay, I think
Get
I
your
have it.
roses and thorns ready.
I think I have it. Okay.
A thorn of mine is, well, I'm going to flip this into both a rose and a thorn. So a rose being that I got to see one of my hometown friends last night. She came up. We got to go to a Raptors game. It was super
Oh, I
fun.
saw- yeah.
Yeah, we
I
had a
think
really
I
fun
saw
time. It was her first game. It was fun. But on the flip side of that, the thorn being I was a little distracted towards the end of the day. So I feel like
She didn't get your full love.
yeah, I was maybe not as present as I should have been, which she came up to see me and we still had a fun time, but I felt like I maybe wasn't fully there.
Engaged, yeah.
Which,
That happens.
yeah, so I wish I could have been maybe a bit more present. But yeah, distractions. Rose, another rose being, actually I was really looking forward to this today. So a rose is you coming on the podcast. I mean, I've told you before, I genuinely do really look up to you, what you present online and just how you kind of live your day-to-day life. I find it really, really inspiring. So this was so fun for me. And a rosebud, something I'm looking forward to. You already said pasta. What else? Rosebud, actually, I'm gonna go see. Torri's been seeing a personal trainer. I'm gonna go finally see him next week and get a good like workout in. So I am looking forward to that.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Okay, so a thorn will be, I think, a mixture of things. It would be, although I did get a good night's sleep last night, but it's like kind of like a little bit of an erosion on my day to day. So the biggest one being I haven't been able. That's why I asked if I could bring my dog.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I wish we could have had
it's totally fine. It's me because
These
I'm not,
mean people won't let us have dogs.
No, it's more because I haven't. So I'll take her on walks and I'll take her on my errands because I've been really busy this week. But I haven't played with her.
Aww.
Yeah, so I haven't she loves just stick so much. So I haven't done that. So that's like a bit of a thorn. Plus my apartment is a wreck right now.
I hate when that happens.
Oh yeah, it's just like I hate it. But a rose has.
I need to literally call Spotless in the 6 today.
Oh.
I have to get someone to come help me. It's at a point that's
I need help.
unreturnable. Yeah, yeah.
A rose has been just to keep it general. I think there's a lot of negative in our community, but I think there's been such an outpouring of love lately for me, and I think that's a huge rose of just. People being present, or haven't heard from some people, and just being present with like what I've been going through lately. So that's
really nice.
That's almost like a bouquet.
Aww.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that, a bouquet.
I've never heard that.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
And then I guess then you know what, I'm gonna leave it at that because I don't want to ramble. And then a rosebud. It would have to be, I have my first SAG Collective event coming up of the year, and actually technically of 2 years. Like we'll co-host things or we'll be part of other events.
Right.
But finally we have partnered up with Philosophy.
Amazing. Yes, I have.
The yoga with touch.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
I'll tell you guys about it later.
Okay, yeah, we'll chat after.
And then Shift Collab, which is supplying all the therapists, but we're basically doing a speed dating for a therapist on Saturday.
Oh, wait,
Love
that's
it.
incredible.
Yeah, but we can talk about that another
Yeah.
time.
Okay, yeah.
It'll be an ongoing series, so we can have that
Oh, I
conversation.
love that news.
So that is the bud that I'm looking forward to on Saturday.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
That'll be so fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. Like Jaclyn said, it was so nice having you here and like picking your brain of all the things you've been through in life. And we will link all of Meghan's information below and the articles you've referenced so that everyone can go find you and follow you
read her
on
beautiful
social.
thoughts of the day, all of the things.
All the things. And this has been Poddy Talk, the
podcast
podcast where we should talk ourselves.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Tor.
And that was Meghan Yuri Young.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye.